Hello, this is David Laxton, Director of Communications at the Autism Society of North Carolina. Would like to welcome those of you who have joined us this evening for tonight's webinar, Planning for an Autism-Friendly Holiday. We're glad that you're with us. There's a possibility we might have a couple more people that are logging in, so we're going to use the next minute or so just to do some housekeeping, make sure that everything's working properly. For those of you that are here, please look at the upper right-hand corner of your computer screen, your tablet or other device. There should be a section that gives you the option for chatting. Usually there's a arrow that points to the right. If you'll look underneath that and use the chat function to let me know if you can hear me, and that also you can see Nancy as well as the slide deck on your screen, that will let us know that everything is working like it's supposed to be as we get ready to get started. So just type in your message on the chat and I will send a message out to the audience right now so that you can respond to that. And yes, okay, somebody can hear me. That's a good thing. And glad that that is working. There is the possibility I learned earlier today during a webinar that sometimes just like everything else that we're finding out in 2020, the sound may drop out, but it typically comes back. You can also log out, log back in if you need to. Thank you for confirming that you can see what we're sharing. And we are recording this. So, you know, that doesn't mean that you should just sign off right now. We want you to stick around because we're taking questions throughout the session and we'll do Q&A at the end. And we're also going to have a special guest Q&A expert from the clinical team. And what I'll do at this point in time is I'm going to hand this over to Nancy to introduce herself. And Nancy, if you want to hand off to Alana so she can introduce herself before we get started, I think that we are ready to go. So just use the chat
Okay.
feature and let us know how we can help you. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. So I'm Nancy Nestor. I'm one of the autism resource specialists here in the Charlotte office. And I have been doing this sort of thing for a while, although not with GoToWebinar, which is new for me. I have a 23-year-old son with autism, and I taught special ed for years before I had my son. And I'm not sure how to hand it off to Alana, but Alana, I guess you can just talk.
Hey there, guys. I'm Alana Ianello, and I am a board-certified behavior analyst. I work in the clinical department of the Autism Society. I was in the Charlotte office for 3 years, and I have recently moved up to what we're calling our Asheville East office. So I now live in Morganton, North Carolina, and am lucky enough to serve some kiddos up this way.
Okay, so I guess we will go ahead and get started, and I'm going to make my webcam go away because it's kind of distracting. I think I can do that. Huh? Maybe not. Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We created this video to show how you can kind of adapt what you've been doing year after year for the situation that we're facing right now with COVID. So if you have been to the Autism Society of North Carolina's webinar library, you will see that there's a webinar called Planning for an Autism-Friendly Holiday. This is that same webinar, just tweaked a little bit for COVID. So our objectives tonight, we're going to quickly review the characteristics of autism that can present challenges during the holiday. We're going to talk about how COVID is impacting the celebration this year, and then demonstrate some strategies that will both prepare and support those with ASD as they get ready for this unique holiday season, and review some resources. So what is autism spectrum disorder? Hopefully you know that it's a neurobiological disorder. It occurs before a baby is born, and it causes differences in the way that information is processed. So you would see a difference in their ability to understand and use language to communicate. The way that they understand and relate to people may be different. They may react differently to sensory stimuli, and thinking and learning is a little bit different than the way a typical child would develop. So when we think about folks with autism, we need to remember that every person is unique, that language is not an indicator of IQ, social interest, sensory issues, or transition. And, you know, sometimes for families, it's very hard because someone will see a child who has autism, or they'll see a child who they've heard has autism, because they don't appear in the way that that person's experience and understanding of autism, in their understanding of it, it will kind of throw them off guard. So what we need to remember is there are different aspects to the person with autism, and that each person with autism is unique and different. You know, you may have someone who has an average IQ. They have a good bit of language. They're pretty social. They have some sensory issues, but they transition very easily. The next person with autism may have similar IQ, but they may have less language. They may have less social interest. They may be more impacted by sensory, and they may have a lot more difficulty transitioning. So what I want you to understand is all those characteristics are different person by person. And then when you throw anxiety in as a factor, the child is going to behave very differently. So you may have someone with average IQ, they may have a good bit of language, but when they're under a lot of stress, that language drops and they withdraw, they become less social. And sensory issues just become a lot more aggravating. And of course, they're going to have difficulty transitioning because they're overwhelmed. So when you think about transitioning to new routines, which is what happens during holidays, you have to look at these core characteristics that make it hard. You have to look at anxiety. You have to remember that they have executive functioning challenges. So it's going to be hard for them to put things kind of in order and to organize things. They're going to have learning differences, and they'll have communication differences as well. And our children, just like all of us, have differences in motivation. What may be appealing to one child with autism may not be appealing to another. So just like any person, you have to consider all of these characteristics and how unique they are when you start planning for the transitions that are involved in the holidays. So the difficulty with change is a challenge for our kids. Think about the holidays, and I want you to think about your child. Change in routine and schedule. Usually during the holiday, it's not the same routine or schedule that our children have when they're in school every day. There's new sensory experiences. There's a lot of light. There's new smells in the house and out in the community. Sounds are different. They may wear different clothes. All of these sensory experiences for some children could be very overwhelming. And of course, family expectations are a challenge as well, because sometimes family members are not around our young people very much. And it's hard for them to remember the challenges they have as well as the accomplishments they've made. So they may not have appropriate expectations. And then during the holidays, there's always the opportunity to have contact with people who may not understand anything about autism. But this year, the holiday season is going to be different from the past. And for some of our children, that's going to be a challenge as well. And it may create a whole lot of anxiety for them because of the uncertainty. So one thing we thought would be helpful is if you could use a visual to explain, you know, how the holidays will happen this year. You could list what's the same this year. Well, the holidays will happen this year. Students don't go to school during the holiday. That's going to be the same this year. Many parents will be home from work, and they were last year and they will be this year. We'll be having special meals this year. There will be decorations and lights. People will get presents, and there'll be holiday music. And there's going to have a lot of free time to play, just like last year. But this year may be different. You may not have any visitors at your house, depending on your house. You may have socially distanced gatherings if you do have visitors. There's going to be mask rules. There will be social distancing rules. The good thing is that there's an increased opportunity for you to support their sensory needs. And that may not have been the case last year. Likely you will be Zooming with family and friends or talking with them on the phone. You're going to spend a lot more time at home. Most people will not travel, and there's going to be a lot more time to work on skill deficits. So just laying it out for your child to help them understand that some things will be the same, but some things will be different. That may be something you can do to decrease a lot of anxiety. So when we work with our children, we always want to use the foundations of best practices. And we know that best practices for folks with ASD is to make things visual because they use visual information meaningfully. That's one of their strong suits. They also take in information quickly if it's in chunks. If you can present information organized in chunks for them, it's easier for them to understand it. And once they do know something, they remember it for a long period of time, which is very helpful. They have the ability to learn long routines, and they also are motivated to repeat familiar routines. They enjoy doing the same things over and over again. For them, that's comforting. They understand and use concrete rules. So if you can make things so it's very literal and very concrete and very sequential, that helps them a lot. And they concentrate on topics of specific interest. So if you can bring those special interests into the sessions where you're teaching them new information or into their schedule every day, that's going to help them a lot as far as motivation and just enjoying their time with you. So first of all, you need to build on their COVID savviness. You want to meet them where they are and move on for there. You know, just like with all children, if you want to teach them something new, you have to meet them where they are and start at their level. You want to use a game with rewards to increase necessary behaviors like mask wearing, which is something that our kids do in school, usually without problems, but because of their autism, they have a hard time doing it at home because home is not school. So if you can make it a fun activity for them where they can get some sort of reward for wearing their mask, and then over time gradually increase the amount of time that they wear their mask for the reward, then that's something that would be helpful for them. You want to use visuals to teach them about social distancing. Our children, for the most part, can't tell just automatically how far 6 feet is. So you may want to take painter's tape and mark out areas for them to be if they're at a table, or 6 feet between chairs using painter's tape, which is easy to remove, to help them understand how far away it is. And visuals also help them if you can use them for changes in routine. That just helps them know ahead of time that something's going to be different. And one of the most important things you should always do with your child is provide them a way to self-advocate, for them to be able to let you know that they've done as much as they can do and they need a break. It's very important if you can give them that and then respect it, because that's going to build trust in you and help with them cooperating with you as time goes on. So even though the holidays look different, the approach for preparing for the holiday and supporting your child is the same. You want to prepare your child. You also have to prepare yourself. And if you prepare your child and yourself, you'll find that the celebration is going to be a lot more enjoyable. So I want you to think about swan going across the lake. To us, the swan looks very beautiful, very graceful, just smoothly moving along. But under the water, if you could be underwater, that swan's little feet are paddling like crazy. So I want you to be like the swan. I want you to work hard ahead of time so that when the holiday celebration is here, you can just smoothly move right through it and so gracefully. To do that, you've got to think about your upcoming challenges, and then you want to determine what you can do to structure your household and your child's experience for success. You want to introduce helpful strategies if you haven't used them. We want to do that now so that they will get comfortable with using the strategies and get confident in their ability. And you'll find that the more you use strategies, the more confident you will be in helping them learn new skills, and the happier you both will be. So you want to practice. That way the skill levels increase. And the other thing you want to do, which is so important for yourself and your child, is to celebrate all the little successes that you make on the way. Your children need to know from you what they're doing right. And the more you praise them, or the more you reinforce the positive behaviors that they're trying, the more they're going to try, the longer and the harder. And it's also going to give you the resilience that you're going to need to keep moving on. So I want you to think about your child. How can you accommodate for their anxiety, their communication needs, because all of our children are different. Their social ability, some of our children love to be around people and they are excited about the holidays. However, others, are rather shy and get overwhelmed very easy. So how can you help them with that social ability? Any sensory trap issues that they may come up with. If you can create some structure for that ahead of time to lessen the sensory issues, then things may go a lot smoother. And then transition challenges. Think about any transitions they may have to make that are going to be hard for them. Think about what you can do ahead of time to help them with those challenges. So helpful strategies for teaching, you always want to pair your language with your child's understanding. If you have a child that has some receptive delays and maybe they're not very verbal, you're not going to want to use a whole lot of language. You're going to use more visuals. If your child's more verbal, you still may want to pair your language to their understanding. Use visuals. You want to plan ahead for anxiety and any sensory interference. Prepare for transitions. You want to provide a way for them to self-advocate. And of course, you want to practice ahead of time. And most important of all, you want to make it fun. Children learn best when they're comfortable. And if you can make the experience fun for them, then they're going to enjoy their time with you. And that's what holidays are all about. So pictures for communication are very important. Visuals work because they represent time and responsibility. They can be either a series of images or words showing a sequence of activities or events to follow. And, depending on your child's needs, if your child is not able to read, you're going to use pictures. If your child has emerging reading skills, I would ask you to pair the pictures with written words, because many of our kids, they are very good at remembering what they see. So you might be able to help them with their reading skills if you do label things for them. On the right, you'll see this is for a much older child, or maybe even a younger child who's very precocious in their reading. But being able to have a series of events, a checklist, or picture symbols helps reduce that anxiety for them. Visual schedules come in all shapes and sizes. For our little children, we may start off with the first use the bathroom, and then you can play with your toys. Sometimes we use actual items as part of the schedule so that the child knows at first this is what we're going to do for PE. We're going to play game, or for PT, we'll have PE, and then we have snack, OT, and then we're going to listen to music. That could also be a choice board where the child chooses, what do I do next? In the center, you'll see another visual schedule. In these sorts of schedule, once a child does an activity, they pull the picture off of the lineup and put it in the little pocket so that they get an understanding that this activity I just did, since I put it in the pocket, it's finished, it's done, and I look at the next one. The picture on the top right is just some photos on a poster board. They're attached with Velcro, and as you can see, there's an old envelope that's just taped to the poster board. We like to show that to parents because we want you to realize that you don't have to spend a lot of money to make a schedule. If you have a cell phone with a camera on it, you can take pictures, you can email them to your computer, print them, you can get them laminated at stores like UPS, or you can just take contact paper and cover them. And that's, makes it durable. Many of our kids can use these pictures for years. And then as the child's skill level gets greater, then you can go to a written schedule like the one on the bottom right, which is very low tech. It's just a notebook and a pen. There's other visual schedule supplies that you can use as well. You can use objects. You'll see the bottom left, those are just sticky notes, which is something a lot of people have at home. There's a morning schedule, and then there's an afternoon schedule. And once an activity is done, the child removes that activity and they can see that the next one is what they should do. Dry erase boards are wonderful to have because you can get them in a variety of sizes. I know when my son, who's 23 now, when he was younger, teenage and preteen, we carried a dry erase board with us all the time and used it quite a bit. The good thing about using any of these strategies in public is people see you using them, and they may not know that your child has autism, but they know that something is different, and they will give you a break. If your child's having difficulties, they have understanding. So these are all good examples of supplies that you can use in your home to help you and your child. Visual supports are important. Checklists, choice boards are very important. Our children need to be able to choose what they do and have a voice. That helps with that relationship building and also building independence. Visual directions are important for our kids. Visual cues, tokens, and timers. The timer in the middle of the page is it's called a time elapsing timer, and a lot of our schools use those so that the child will see I have 10 minutes left. Well, and then in a few minutes they'll see that the red triangle has gotten smaller, so I have 5 minutes, and that's a smaller amount. You can go online and find clocks like that. They really are not very expensive. Calendars are wonderful schedules too. This was one that one of our kids used that does the virtual school. They know they go to school on Monday and Tuesday, and then they have school at home on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, there's no school. Something like that was downloaded from the internet. It's very easy to create. For some of our kids, they get very anxious whenever there's something new coming. And so on the right, you'll see a paper chain. And what the child does is every day, once the day is over, they take the paper chain down one link at a time. And that helps them understand that they're getting closer to the day. You could also use something simple like straws in a glass. If possible, though, it would be wonderful if you could start teaching them to use a calendar, because that's something as an adult they will be able to do. If you have a teenager or a preteen, show them how you use the calendar on your phone. If they're mature enough and they have their own phone, show them how to schedule things on their own calendar on their phone. It's very important for them to learn all these skills that help them become more functional. So before the holidays, there's several things you can do to plan ahead of time to improve the experience. Here's an example of a first then. Many of our kids in school, their teachers use these. First we have lunch, then we brush our teeth. And then here's our schedule friend again. That's very important that you can make yourself. You may use a first then already in your home. So you may have a first then where when your child comes home, the rule is first you put your school things away and then you get to swing for 10 minutes. That's your reward for being responsible. So last year, if you had converted this to a holiday schedule, it might have said first say hello to grandma and then swing for 10 minutes. For some of our children who have social anxieties or sensory issues, saying hello to grandma is a very challenging thing if she's not someone that's kind of within their circle or bubble. So they really do need that wonderful reward of swinging. If swinging is not your child's favorite thing to do, then think about something that would be their favorite thing to do. This year, things are going to look differently. You probably will Zoom with grandma rather than seeing her in person. And I know many of our parents have contacted us with stories of how difficult it is for our children to attend to a computer screen. So again, it's hard for our children, but if you can give them something that is valuable to them as a reinforcement, you may find that they try much harder to connect with that computer screen for a few minutes so that grandma can see them looking at her interest and then give them the reward. If you have a child that maybe is more Asperger-ish and has a hard time, likes to argue a lot, you may try something that's called a double first then. And with a double first then, you have you can take a piece of paper and divide it into 4 sections. The first top left section says, if you finish your lunch before the timer rings, then you're going to have time to finish your puzzle. Bottom left, if you don't finish your lunch before the timer rings, consequence or what's the result? You won't have time to finish your puzzle. So the way this works is you cover the left side and you say to the child, what do you want to do? Well, of course the child wants to finish the puzzle, don't they? That's what they're going to choose. And so then you cover the bottom half and you say, then what do you have to do? And the child will say, I have to finish my lunch. We know that a lot of times if you give the power of the choice to the child, then the compliance goes way up. Making it visual so that they can see, if I do this, then that will happen. But if I do that, then that's going to happen. I don't really want that. I want this. So I have to finish my lunch or whatever you're asking them to do. It's very important whenever you do any sort of first then with a child that you start off using the tool with activities that they enjoy doing. So even if you're doing a first then, you would choose 2 things that they love to do. It may be first I jump on the trampoline and then I get to play a video game. And you'd use that for a couple days, maybe 5 or 10 times. And then you're going to move to something where you say, first I do something they don't care one way or another about. Maybe, I don't know, for my son, it might have been put away his coat. He could do that. It was no big deal. But then you get to jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes. Okay, so you want to follow that up with something they really enjoy. And you're going to do that for a while until they get so they master it. And then you're gradually going to start introducing things that are more difficult for them to do. And you will follow it up with something they really love to do. So you do that with the double first then or just a regular first then. So let's look at how the double first then is going to look for the holidays. So last year it may have looked like, if you look at Aunt Jen's tree with your hands, your eyes, but not your hands, then you get to choose the music we listen to on the way home. If you look at Aunt Jen's tree with your eyes and touch the ornaments, then we get to listen to Dad's choice. Guess what? Dad likes boring talk radio on the way home. So again, what do you want to do? Do you want to listen to Taylor Swift, or would you rather listen to sports or talk radio? Well, any little girl's going to say, I want Taylor Swift. Then what do you have to do? Well, the rule is, if I want to listen to Taylor Swift, then I have to only look with my eyes, but not with my hands. So I want you to think about, your situation this year. If you're going to visit with someone, and if you have a child like my son was, who touched everything before he could think about it, this double first then worked very well. Even an if then worked well with him. But this year's going to be different. You may not be having people come over. You may not be going to someone else's house. But if you can tweak what's in front of you by using an if then or a first then, or even a double if then for a child that's a lot more advanced, I think you'll see that these strategies work pretty well. Social narratives are also very helpful. They give the rules of the situation before the child is in the situation. And that's a lot of times when our children struggle. It's because they don't understand what the rules are for a new situation before they get there. Social narratives are a short, positive message, and they describe the situation and they provide a positive result. And they can be created a variety of ways to meet your child's communication needs. If you do use a social narrative, it needs to be in first person. If it's written so that when the child reads it, they use the word I or me, or so that they know this is for them. So the Autism Society has created a wonderful library of social narratives just for the holiday season. I would hope that if you have time, you can go to our website, and it's listed right here, socialnarratives.org it's that section on our website, and look at these and see if they're appropriate for your child, okay? Because we've got a variety of topics. I also want you to know that you can make your own social narrative if you feel like that's appropriate as well. Here's one that one of our parents made, has to do with opening presents. And in reading through, you'll see that it talks in general kind of about a child. Notice they use the word I, get lots of presents. And it tells why presents are given, that they're a way people can show they care. And they like getting presents, especially if it's one of their special interests. And then it tells them what to do. When you get a present, you find the card, you read who it's from, you open the present, you look at the person it's from and say thank you. And you say thank you to let them know that you like getting a present. And it's okay to say thank you, even if you don't like the present. You have to look at them and say thank you. Those are kind of the rules. Once you say thank you, then you can go and enjoy the present. And that's the best part of opening presents. Notice how that's written in a positive way. They use the word I, so that the child reading this social story understands that it is a story for them. You use social stories, you would use it several times before the opportunity for them to get a present. That's called priming. It's getting them prepared so that they know what to do when they are in this situation. So you wouldn't just do it right before they get a present. You would actually do it a few days before. If your child's not ready for a social narrative, you can create a short rule book. You can incorporate the social narrative, the expectation, into the schedule. This social narrative kind of did that, because it said, first you find the card, then you open the present, and then you look at the person who you got the present from and you say thank you. That could be a schedule all in itself. You want to provide lots of positive reinforcement for compliance. Again, remember, our kids don't always know the rules. And if you give them praise, or if you reinforce them in a way that they enjoy, then they're going to react and want to repeat that routine over and over again. You want to structure the activity an area for success. You want to make sure you cut down on anything that would make them anxious. You want to try to eliminate any sensory interference as well. And as I said before, you're going to practice it several times a day. You want to get them to the point that they do what you expect using the visual strategy automatically. So here's another example of that same little social story, but it's pared down a lot. The language is pared down. There's not as many words, there are pictures. And so a child with not as much language comprehension would be able to go through this. Perhaps you would read it to them, and so that they know what is expected of them. You also can take rules. If you use rules with your child all the time, then you can convert the same structure to a COVID holiday schedule. Actually, the rules on the left were the rules that I had for my son when he was 3 and 4. He was unfortunately a combination between Rain Man, the Tasmanian Devil, and Dennis the Menace, and we just struggled to be in public because he was a whirling dervish. So I finally figured out that if I created 4 rules for him and primed him before we got out of the car with this visual verbal schedule, then he would know what was expected of him. And, you know, he really wanted to do what was right. It's just his little ADHD made it hard for him to remember. But I found if I primed him every time before we got out of the car, before we went into the store or wherever we were going, he did a lot better. And I used this visual with him probably for maybe 6 or 9 months. And he got to the point where all I would have to do is this. And he would see me holding up my finger, number 1, and he would know, oh no, I'm not holding mom's hand. And he would grab my hand so that we could stay in the store rather than having to go sit in the van. So if you do something like that with your child daily, you could convert it into a COVID holiday schedule. Notice there are pictures as well as written language. You can take your cell phone. This could be a picture of your car. We're going to ride in our car. We're going to go to the park. Well, you could have a picture of your own park. We're going to wear masks and swing with our cousins. You could have a picture of them and their cousins, but you actually probably could go online and draw masks on them, or you could take and draw masks on the picture and then take a picture of the picture. Again, your car, and then we're going to go home. You can have a picture of your home on the schedule. We find that for some of our kids, if you can use a picture of their car, their home, they relate to it a whole lot easier, and the compliance goes up. So the important thing I want you to take away from this very, very different holiday is that we're going to have less time for travel, and that's going to give you more time to work on skill development. For children, the areas that they struggle is social skills quite often. And the more you can help them with that, the easier their life is going to be. You're probably not going to be spending a whole lot of time in the kitchen cooking like you have before. So that's going to give you more time to think of ways to reinforce those new skills they're acquiring. You'll have more time at home. And the good thing about that is that's going to help you have some time to explore some new areas of interest. Our kids are so funny. They get stuck on things, and they get stuck on something, and it's over and over and over and over and over again to the point of ad nauseum. And then all of a sudden they're not stuck anymore, and it catches us off balance. Sometimes we need to spend time with them, kind of stretching what they enjoy doing, trying new things with them, seeing what they're doing and what they're interested that is new, and then spending time with them doing those new things they like. More time at home is going to give you an opportunity to find ways to expand your positive reinforcement options. You know, as our kids grow, they're just like other folks. What your 3-year-old enjoys doing and your 3-year-old likes for you to do with them is not going to be the same as what they will be when they're 8 or 13 or 18. So you have to kind of be able to read your child and have more tricks in your bag, because they're going to grow and change. More time at home, that's going to give you more time to create some new sensory experiences for your children too. If your child likes smells, you can explore and maybe find some new smells they like. I know with my son, he had a lot of vestibular needs. So we would create like Army Man obstacle courses in the house so that he could crawl on his stomach and he could climb over things, and you know, he could sit on a little scooter and pull himself across the floor with a rope that was tied to a door. So, you know, it gave us time to kind of play with him more. And it really helped our relationship with him, because it helped us understand where he was coming from. And he really enjoyed those kinds of activities. More time at home is going to give you more time to build that trust and cooperation. And sometimes with our children, I know they seem like they have control issues. And so if you can spend time with them doing things they love to do, you may find that they will try more things with you. So all of this creates an opportunity for you to create some new traditions that maybe you can carry forward in the years to come. Some of our kids who are very verbal, they sometimes get themselves in trouble because they don't know the difference between talking bubbles and thinking bubbles. So if this is a child that you have, you may want to create some scenarios for them to think about, you know, how sometimes when we keep our thoughts to ourselves, then no one gets hurt. This would be maybe a typical thing that might happen holiday when people are together, or maybe even not together. But the little girl says, "I would like some pie, please." And the little boy keeps his thought bubbles to himself. And he's thinking to himself in the green section, top right, "You're fat. You don't need pie. You should go on a diet like my mom." Well, if he keeps those thoughts to himself, then nobody's feelings get hurt. But what happens if he says it out loud? Then of course her feelings are going to get hurt. She's crying and she says, "I'm not fat. You're rude." And of course, then he gets angry because she just called him rude. "No, I told the truth. What did I do wrong?" So you can create little scenarios like this to help your child process ahead of time what might happen if you have a child that has this sort of tendency. We know that videos can be helpful as well for our kids, because if you can video them doing what it is you expect them to do, it shows exactly what's expected, who's going to do it, how they will do it, and when it will be done. There actually has been some research done out of the University of Indiana, and they've shown that even with kids that are highly impacted by their autism, if you can video them, even if you have to do hand over hand and then edit it back and remove the slides that have your hands in it, and show them the video of themselves doing the activity you want them to do, that the compliance in those situations skyrocket. So we're going to try and watch this video. I will tell you, we've had a little bit of trouble with the audio coming in, but let's see, hopefully you will hear it. Hopefully it'll play. Maybe taking some time to buffer. Okay. Well, unfortunately, it does not look like it's going to play, but let me explain to you in this video, there were some really good things that happened. The young man is highly impacted by his autism, but he loves sensory smells. So at this holiday season, the mother is having him help with the cooking by tearing up cilantro. He loves the smell of cilantro. For him, being able to help her by getting the cilantro ready to put in the dish is very reinforcing. I wish you could see this video because visually she has it set up with a work system. I don't know if I can get it to pop back up or not. Let me see. It's not going to pop up at all. Anyway, there's a work system. So on his left, there are whole cilantro stems and leaves. In front of him are the leaves, and to his right are the stems. And so visually, she points to where things are going. And then as he does the activity, she praises him. And you can see he gets this big smile on his face when she praises him. And she rubs his back because he likes that too. So think about your child. If you have a child that struggles with tasks, if you could try to video them doing the activity you want them to do, and then show them the video on your iPad or your cell phone, it may really help them a lot in knowing what you want them to do so that they can do a good job. And again, pairing it with something that might be reinforcing for them is very helpful. Oh, there it was. You want to schedule in breaks. Many of our kids, for them learning new skills and using new strategies, that's hard work. So you want to make sure you put in time for them to play with a favorite toy, schedule a favorite activity. For some of our kids, they like to look at calming photos. I have one friend's son who loves to look at the flyers, you know, the different grocery store ads. That's just calming for him. He loves that. Listen to soothing music, maybe have a favorite snack. You want to make sure you have a visual for them so that they know what's going to happen, and you have to be consistent in your strategies. You may want to have time for them to just chill in their comfortable bedding or to wear their pajamas longer, you know, if it's because it's not a normal work day. If you do plan on traveling, I want you to try and make sure that you put some downtime in where you're going. If you're staying with relatives, you're going to want to make sure that you have time with your child, with just your family, away from the people you're visiting, especially if your child struggles in new environments. They may really need time with the folks that are in their house in a separate place. Even if it's in your car, they need some time with things that are familiar with them. Sometimes for our kids, if you stay in a hotel, being able to come back to a place that's more neutral and spend quiet time with their family helps them regroup so that they can be more successful. Also want to have some extra time to help them learn to self-advocate. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's really important that our kids be able to tell us when they've kind of had enough. We don't want to push our children to the point of meltdown. That really causes more problem than it does help. So you want to have a method for them. If you have a child that's nonverbal, you may want to just give them a card that says help or an exclamation point on it. If your child knows sign language, that's the sign for break. So teach them to use that when they need a break, and you want to practice it. If you have a child that maybe asks the same questions over and over again, or maybe asks too many questions, you may try something like giving them tickets, letting them know you can ask 4 questions. So you need to think about what questions you really want to ask so that you don't waste a ticket on something that is not that important. So those are all different strategies that you can use. Even if you don't see your family this year, in person, it's really important to keep them up to date on what your child is doing and what their challenges are now, but also how far they've come since the last time they were able to get together. They need to stay connected with you and with your children. Studies have been done that show that grandparents especially, and brothers and sister-in-laws really are interested in helping. They just don't know what to do. So, if you spend time with them, even if you're Zooming with them and your child is struggling to stay connected, you might want to let them know ahead of time, hey, he's really having a hard time looking at the computer, and I just need you to be patient with them and just try to be happy and positive. And you want to find ways to involve them in something fun. I know some families have actually mailed a puzzle out to the grandparents, the same puzzle that the family has, and they're all putting the puzzle together on Zoom. So they help each other out. Oh, I found this puzzle piece. It goes right here. So, anything your child is interested in that grandma and grandpa or uncles and aunts could take part in, that would be good. I know when my son was very, very young as a toddler, even before he could speak, he loved the song Wheels on the Bus. So a lot of times I would call my mom then, because we didn't have Zoom, and she would sing that to him over the phone. I would put it on speakerphone, and he just loved that. And she could hear him giggling even though she couldn't see him. So, think about your child. Think about things your child enjoys doing in ways that maybe you can connect your family in that. The more positive interactions that your child has with your family, the more comfortable they will be with them, and the more likely they're going to want to spend time with them in the future when we can all get out. So the good thing also is we now have some time to create some new traditions. Think about your child. Think about what their skill level might be and how it's different from the past. I know we kind of put this question out there to a lot of families and to the autism resource specialist. All of us, we're all parents of children with autism. And these are some of the ideas that came back. A lot of us said that we were going to try and do some new craft activities with our children related to the holidays. Maybe something like making ornaments or making cards to send to friends and family. Maybe finding some holiday related activities that can be done in the home. A lot of us talked about cooking, and you only saw briefly, and I apologize, but the cooking task that was on the video that didn't play shows that it doesn't matter skill level. There are a lot of things pertaining to cooking that our kids can do. Decorating the house. I was looking on the Mecklenburg County chapter Facebook page, and someone had asked the question about how do you decorate when you have a child that likes to undecorate and you're afraid things will get broken. And a lot of the parents had really good ideas that they were sharing about, how you give their child their own special little ornaments made of something that's indestructible, like felt, or maybe plastic ornaments, something that they can decorate with down low on the tree, and then high up on the tree you put the more expensive ornaments, or maybe you don't use those expensive ornaments until your child gets a little bit older. So having them get involved with the decorating as much as they can. You can also ask them to help with creating a schedule of events. A lot of times, again, asking their opinion, asking for them to help, that gives you the buy-in. And when you get the buy-in, then you've got a lot more cooperation. You can have them help choose the music. If you have a child that's able to, you could have them create a special toast or help create a prayer. I know with a lot of our kids, they're very savvy when it comes to social media. So if you have a child that's capable, you may have them set up a Zoom meeting for yourself and the grandparents, and then maybe another one for one of the families of aunts and uncles. So, if they're able to do things like that, turn that task over to them. Or if they're not able to do it, you have them with you when you set it up and ask them, who do you think we should see at 12:30? Well, what family should we see at 3 o'clock? Help them be part of things. And then once the holiday is over, you want to talk to them about what they thought of these new changes. Did you enjoy decorating? Did you enjoy choosing the music? What can we do different? What should we keep as the same? So again, we want them to be able to self-advocate. The most important thing we want you to do is to breathe and take your time. Your child every year is going to get better and better and better. And you will find that the more practice they have at holidays, the less issue it's going to be. You're going to realize that throughout time, you're going to understand your child better and your child will understand you better. You're going to do a better job structuring for your child, and your child is going to enjoy the changes more because you have structured for them. So you want to make short-term goals, maybe not do everything and have everything perfect this year, but you want a short-term goal leading to a long-term goal. And that's going to help you kind of have the resilience you need. You don't want to expect too much right away. You don't want to be unreasonable, but you can make some short-term goals. And you want to celebrate every single hurdle you cross, because it is a challenge for our kids, and that makes it a challenge for you. But the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. So my parting thought for you is that attitude is the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. So we want to have a positive attitude. We want to be confident. We want an adventure, not an ordeal. 2020 has been an ordeal, and we all deserve an adventure. So let's try and put on that positive attitude. Let's figure out what we need to do. Let's practice, and let's get out there and have some fun. So here's some resources for you. As we said earlier, the Autism Society has some wonderful new social narratives that would be helpful. If your child is able to use any sort of social story, Carol Gray, her site is very helpful. She is the creator of social stories, and she does a wonderful job. There's lots of good resources on her site. Michelle Garcia Winter is also a wonderful person that has created social thinking, which helps for a lot of our kids that are a little higher functioning, or maybe struggle with understanding another person's point of view. She's got some great things on her website. And then the website Do to Learn has wonderful activities for folks on all levels of the spectrum. If you've not gone to Do to Learn yet, I hope you'll take the time to explore that site. It's got a variety of different activities and skill development strategies that you can look at in a variety of areas as well. Many of them are free, some of them cost, but I think for most parents, you can get a lot of things for free on that site. Autism Society has our webinar library, and we have a lot of titles that would be very helpful for now, like visual schedules, that just more information on different schedules, how they work, why they work, how to structure your day for success. And then, of course, for our kids, because anxiety and autism go hand in hand, it's really important that they learn how to calm themselves down and some coping routines that they can use. The Autism Society has lots of resources. I'm an autism resource specialist, and we have, I think there's 18 of us across the state. So no matter where you live in North Carolina, there's someone who understands your journey, because we all have children with autism, and you can contact us and we will help you find resources. We also can help you with any other things you need. We have workshops, the website has toolkits, we have online webinars, and we also have blogs every month, usually 3 to 6 a month, on a variety of topics. So that is my presentation, and I think we have some time now for some questions. If you have a scenario that you'd like us to do some brainstorming with, please let us know, and Alana and I would be happy to talk with you. Do we have any questions?
And for those attendees, the way that you can share questions is using the chat feature. If you just want to respond to the message I'm about to send out now, you can ask your questions, and we'll take a few minutes to answer this for you. First question up is how should I exchange, let me get my tongue untied here. How to explain to my child, or how to explain my child to other family members in a positive way. Nancy and Alana, what would your suggestions be for sharing information about your child to family members that may not understand autism?
I'm going to let Alana go first because my voice is a little tired.
That's a great question. And what I always like to suggest to families is to really highlight a lot of the strengths that our kiddos and adults have that are related to their autism. You know, great memories, very honest, you know, and so sort of framing a lot of their strengths. And a lot of times our kiddos' needs also sort of come out of those strengths as well. So, you know, maybe they are not as flexible with routines. So, you know, just explaining that the more we structure our kiddos' day, the more effective it is. And I love Nancy's suggestions that the more that you're able to share about your child's preferences and strengths, you sort of give power to relatives and friends that just may not know how to interact with your child. So maybe it's not a lack of wanting to, it's just not quite understanding how to do so. So I like encourage families to share those special interests and allow for family members and friends to engage with the child with those interests, because I think the more success that friends and family members have with our kids, the less sort of standoffish or nervous they're going to be about interacting with them.
I think that's perfect. I mean, it's very important to help family members kind of celebrate the joys for the things that our children have accomplished, and have time doing things with our child that's fun. And so if they can, you know, get involved with an area of special interest, even if it seems crazy, just seeing the joy that it brings our child a lot of times will bring joy to family members. And then also letting them know what they can do to help. And it may not be, you know, being involved if your child is having a meltdown, but it may be something like helping you get things packed up so that when you need to walk out the door, you can do it quickly.
And I think to piggyback on that too, I've found working with different families that it's helpful for family members to know how to react if there is a meltdown, right?
Right.
At this point, you know, don't engage, I've got this. This is sort of, you know, so I think as much as we want to prime our kids, we also want to prime our relatives and friends for, you know, what might potentially be any issues so that they know how to respond and react as well.
Mhm. That was a great question.
And I just put into the chat that we have a few more minutes, so if there are other questions, please don't hesitate to share those.
I know one I got from a parent a few days ago. They wanted to know how to cope with their child because their child seems like they're always afraid to try anything new. And, you know, they just don't seem interested in the holidays. They did not seem interested at all last year. So, Alana, what would you do to help a child that seems not interested in activities or social interactions or anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, again, sort of going back to those special interests, you know, if a kiddo is particularly interested in Spider-Man or Paw Patrol or letters, you know, maybe finding different, you know, episodes that relate to the holidays that may have special character, you know, their favorite characters in there. I know one of my clients is totally obsessed with the ABCs. So we started finding different things related to Thanksgiving and Christmas that started with each letter of the alphabet. And then I do continuing, as you said, Nancy, to like build those family traditions each year. I think the more that it becomes predictable for the child every year, the more comfortable it will become, right? So maybe if you make the same 2 types of cookies and you know, you all, I don't know, have the same Christmas PJs or, you know, whatever holiday you're celebrating. I think the more predictability we can build into the holidays in what can be a very unpredictable time, the more comforting that will probably become for the individual.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question. It reads, should I restrict or try to restrict my child's flapping, pacing, talking to himself during the holidays, or how would you all view that?
My answer would be no way. I think, you know, the more that we're learning from adults with autism about, you know, what that sort of flapping and self-stimulatory behavior is, a lot of times it's a coping skill for individuals with autism. So I think that especially in a time that may be more unpredictable with different people coming in and out of the house and my routine is interrupted and not consistent, you know, that may be one of the more appropriate behaviors that you see at that time. You know, they're trying to you know, find some level of comfort and control in a situation that is unpredictable. So I don't know, Nancy, maybe your answer would be different, but I would not try to interrupt or restrict that.
So when my son was young, the thought was that you needed to eliminate stimming behavior, the flapping, you know, the self-stimulatory talk, that needed to be eliminated. And then you wanted to replace it with something more appropriate. But what I have found over time, as my son has gotten older and all of his friends with autism have gotten older, is really, it's more of what you were talking about, Alana, that they are trying to self-regulate. You know, if I felt like they were stimming all day long and that's all they were doing, and they never used to do that before, I think I would build time in the schedule for them to stim so that they could get that need met. But again, I don't know that that this is really maybe the time or the place to do that. You know, you may want to think about how long are they going to be in a situation that would cause them to be anxious, maybe shorten that time so it's not so unmanageable for them. And let people know that that is the expectation, that, you know, right now he can go 20 minutes with people before he starts getting very stimmy. So I'm not going to expect him to sit with all of us for an hour. He can't handle that. He'll be there for 20 minutes and then he needs a break. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And one of the other things that we got to keep in mind is that that's a coping method for them. But also, if you look at how we behave, those folks that I guess the adults on the spectrum would call the neurotypicals, oftentimes we might be doing things that they would consider to be weird behavior too. As we're
True.
around these family gatherings, we have our own coping methods and mechanisms that may not be our normal behavior. So we need to make sure that we're applying the same expectations and grace to ourselves, or to them that we're applying to ourselves. One more question came in. Do you have any suggestions for apps for creating social narratives, schedules, and simple task or to-do lists?
I'm going to let Alana do that. I know one of our autism resource specialists, Amy Perry, she's like the app guru. And maybe what you could do is reach out to one of us and we can connect you with her if Alana is not aware of any. But I know Amy Perry could name off like 10 right now.
I am going to let Amy Perry do that then. I do have a couple that I use with different clients, but they're typically on the parents or staff's tablet. So I don't have that at my fingertips right now, but yeah, David, if you want to put that person in touch with Nancy and me, we will get that information headed their way for sure.
Yes, and I could do that tomorrow.
Okay, I will share the contact information, and let's see, we got 2 more minutes. So if anybody has another question, please go ahead and share that at this time. Sorry for the sound of my keyboard going in the background. I'll mute myself.
Okay.
One of the other things, back to the first question that was asked, you know, how do I sort of explain my child with autism to family and friends? I really wanted to just not really expand on Nancy's point, but I loved Nancy's point about really talking to your friends and family about the successes you've had with your child, and all the growth that they've been making, especially in these difficult times where I know it's been really difficult for all of us, but especially individuals on the spectrum. You know, because our kids and adults do make so much exciting progress, and you know, we see it and we appreciate it, and it may seem like such a small success, right? If you're, as David said, you know, looking at the world of neurotypicals, but you really do need to share that stuff with your family, you know, just as I'm sure you have other family members that, you know, are talking about, you know, my 3-year-old's, you know, speaking in full sentences now. You know, don't be afraid to share all of the awesome progress that your kiddos are making, because it's amazing and it's beautiful. So be sure to celebrate that with your families.
Yeah, I know in my own family, with my son, they have just truly enjoyed watching all the gains that he has made. He has come so far since he was little. And, you know, that helped me to see them celebrate it as well.
Exactly. And as we go into this holiday session, or season, I should say, this is a session, we're going into the season. This is 2020, you all. Sorry about this.
That's right.
should have had another cup of coffee. I think one of the things that we all have to keep in mind is that, what we think it's going to be like right now, today on the 17th of November, and what we may find out come the 23rd of November or the 17th of December can be very different as far as what our expectations are. And I think one of the things that everybody's been trying to remind each other about within our organization, but then externally, is just, give ourselves a break. We're doing the best that we can right now. Everybody's under a little bit of stress, and I think that the folks that have tuned in tonight for this webinar have plenty of strategies that can help them out, but don't hesitate to reach out to our organization so that we can offer you additional information. Both Alana and Nancy are available. We, as an organization, are here to support you and your loved ones, the folks that you work with, not only now, but in the future. We're a lifelong partner, and we are reachable both electronically, via phone, just about any way you can think of. Social media, we're there as well. So we've hit the end time for the webinar. There are no other questions in the queue. And I just want to say thank you to Nancy and Alana for sharing their information, expertise, and perspective on this topic. It's one that we will have recorded, and folks that have attended tonight will receive an email link tomorrow, about 24 hours from now. And that link will not only include, or the email will not only include a link to this recording, which has our live commentary, but it also will have a certificate of attendance. I think that I clicked on that link. If it doesn't and you need one of those, let us know. But then also there will be an evaluation link. And if you'll fill that out, that helps us know what you are looking for as attendees of these sessions so that we can plan for future webinars. And it'll only take a minute or two to complete that. There's not that many questions, and we've got it where you can just click with what you're thinking and what you want to share. And we do appreciate that greatly. You can also check out our calendar events for upcoming webinars. If you're not on our email list, you probably will be by the end of the evening, because I'm going through and making sure everybody's subscribed to that. We do send out 2 emails a month at least, if not more, and we appreciate you taking the time to read those. If you ever have any questions about anything that's in that, just hit the reply to. It will come to me, and I'll make sure that the right person receives your question. So again, thank you so much for participating with us tonight. And look at your inbox tomorrow evening or on Thursday morning and let us know what you think about the session. And otherwise, just have a great rest of your evening and let us know how we can help you.